Josh and Frankie with a couple of dumb shits.
Hello, primates! You found Primus Tracks. Congratulations! There are so many places to find Primus Tracks. It is getting a bit out of hand. We are at Primus Tracks on Threads and Instagram. There is a Facebook page called, you guessed it, Primus Tracks, and we have an email address. Do you remember email? It's primustrackspod@gmail.com if you're feeling lonely and want to drop Frankie a line. Speaking of people that run this podcast, I am Josh, and he is coming to you from the 39th floor of Primus Tracks Towers in Mexico City. It's Frankie Berestein.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, Frankie. We have finally made it to an album that you've wanted to talk about for weeks, and I have proposed years. I have proposed all kinds of episodes, inter-album episodes, to delay the inevitable and irritate you. But here we are, finally talking about 2006's of Whales and Woe.
When I met Adam, he said, "What you guys do is beautiful, but have you run out of material yet?" And I said, "Actually, we're about to embark on Whales and Woe the following year."
So Adam was worried about us to a degree. Wow.
Yeah, but we still have a generous share of releases to go through.
That's right. Adam, if you're listening, and I know you are, we're going to be fine. We should certainly give this record a pretty thorough overview, but I know that you have some miscellaneous debris.
Primus is undertaking a tour after they wrap up Sesenta 2.0. Not taking into account Sesenta, it will be their first tour with Hoffman on drums.
That's right.
And they will be joined by Ty Siegel. Is that correct?
Yep.
And Mono Neon. I'm really intrigued about, which classics they'll be playing, but I'm intrigued about which gems they will be dusting off for the Hoffman debut.
I think there's a lot of anticipation for what Hoffman's going to dig up from the catalog and lobby for. What the jam sessions with the three of those guys will resurrect.
When he posts stuff about hanging with Jay Lane, I just comment Hennepin Crawler on all his posts. And when he posts stuff related to Brain, I just post Camelback Cinema on all his posts.
Oh, great. You're already harassing Hoffman. This bodes really well for getting him on the podcast. And I will make mention of it so he realizes that you're that guy. You're the one following me around saying, Hennepin Crawler? What the? And also, we would assume they're going to play their new song that they wrote together as part of the finals for the Interstellar Drum Derby.
I believe so. Now, I'm wondering if that song will be released as a physical record, akin to the way Pablos Hippos was part of the EPPP. So it might be a standalone Primus thing, or if Maynard is recording stuff again, then that could be a follow-up EP, and then we're getting a variant every night. Oh my God.
You're just thinking about your bank account dwindling again, aren't you?
Yes.
So
my mental health is deteriorating quickly.
So a second EPPP, would that be called EPPPP or EPPP2?
I would say EPPP 2.0.
Oh, of course, because that's the name of the tour, Sesenta 2.0. I was just hoping they had to add another P to it to make it difficult to say. We're not entirely certain what this new song entails. We just know it's Lessler and John, and I'm
exciting times ahead.
That's right. New song to toss out there. A short tour following Sesenta for these three, and we should credit the Ryan Russillo podcast. That's where Les revealed that there would be a short tour following Sesenta. So a lot to look forward to in the world of Primus. But today, our focus, Frankie, is the 2006 release by Les Claypool called Of Whales and Woe. This 2006 record was his first studio record on his own, essentially, or at least with his name on it as the main artist since 2002's Purple Onion. There's an interesting pattern happening here with these Les Claypool solo releases. We had the Colonel Les Claypool's Fearless Flying Frog Brigade in 2000, the Les Claypool Frog Brigade for the Purple Onion release, and now it's just Les Claypool. What is going on? Were they running out of ink over there, Frankie? What's happening?
Interesting, right? How this is the first Les Claypool release without any kind of backing band. And I believe that makes the record a statement. Because with the other projects, it was less saying, okay, so this is not Primus. This is not the kind of stuff that I would inflict upon the guys on Primus. But he still had the safety net of a band. But here, I mean, he did have the fancy band, but just the fact that it's a Les Claypool record without any kind of band name, I think it's bold. It's a statement that says this is Les Claypool on his own for the first time ever.
Yeah, nobody else to blame, right? He could have blamed the Frog Brigade for some missteps, but now it's all on his shoulders.
There's kind of a mystery surrounding the artwork. I don't know if it's true or not, because we know that it's a Soltron layout and design. However, I recall somebody saying that illustration was actually taken from some kind of product. Some kind of canned product. Do you recall what it was? Like sardines or eels or?
Yes, it was some kind of canned seafood, the contents of which I don't recall, however, but this illustration is lifted straight from that. It's altered a bit, but the pose of the man at the wheel and everything is directly from that illustration, yes.
So what is that product? I guess we'll have to dig to find what it is.
We'll have to find it. It's been discussed before, out there on the internet. So we just have to go find it.
And it's a really cool illustration, I got to say. It fits the music very well, the vibe, and it just screams Les Claypool when you look at it.
Yeah, the seafaring element of it, of course, along with the title of Whales and Woe, it certainly has a vibe of sea. Like I feel when I got this album, looking at the cover art and the title, I was thinking, oh, we're going to get a record of sea shanties, and there really aren't any on here, but it certainly gave off that vibe. So I wasn't entirely sure what to expect. Don't necessarily get any sea shanties, but we get a lot of great music.
That's in terms of the artwork on the front cover, but the booklet is quite interesting as well because we get some Cage and Lena contributions.
They're credited with the illustrations throughout the interior of your CD release.
Not the first or last time they would contribute something to a Claypool release.
That's right. So their illustrations are all over the inside. Now, Frankie, we're talking about the CD release. Are those same illustrations present on the vinyl release from 2006 or 2009 or whatever year that was?
Interestingly enough, I've never seen an alleged 2006 release. The photo on Discogs is just a stock copy photo. It's not an actual record. Every time the item comes up for sale, it's a 2009 pressing. Now, how can you tell that you have a 2009 pressing? Because of the barcode. But it's really strange. I mean, this is one of those cases where I've never even seen a picture of the actual record from 2006. And the fact that the 2009 pressing is just the CD artwork blown up. Mm-hmm. And the back sleeve, that's why the back sleeve reads 2006, even though it was released in 2009. It just makes me wonder if the 2006 record is actually something to be trusted. I mean, just going by the information on Discogs, the 2006 release allegedly has PSR 0011 2 on the spine, while the 2009 version is PSR 00181. Make of that what you will, but I'm assuming that if there really was a 2006 pressing, it was incredibly limited in order to never come up for sale. I mean, that's insane.
At some point, it would have come up, and you would have found it.
Yeah, so yeah, it's very strange that it's never been widely available. I mean, other records have become rare with time, like the first pressing Purpleonion, a first pressing Fungi and Foe, but they were readily available at some point, and they are still easy to. I mean, it's easy to find pictures, but not with this one. It's quite a mystery. Now, that's in terms of the vinyl release. Mm-hmm. You get this blown up artwork, which was lifted from the CD. The vinyl is black. Then you get the adverse yaw pressing, which is exactly the same, but with an inner sleeve that features the design from Agent O. Right. And of course, it's navy blue vinyl. The CD is quite interesting because while the vinyl releases are smooth, the CD, well, the digipack is rough, it's wrinkled, and it's very nice to the touch.
I'm glad you mentioned the tactile nature of this CD digipack because it feels like it was printed on recycled cardboard or heavy stock paper or something of that nature. And yeah, it has that, I'm going to call it a ruddiness. Like it has this sturdiness to it that you would expect from an old boat or something like that. Just to take this of Whales and Woe and nautical theme further. And on your CD itself, you have some of the artwork here. This is, of course, the steering wheel of the ship. That also is on the underside of your tray. So that is what adorns the inside of your CD. And then, of course, the Cage and Lena illustrations on the inside cover as well. And they're throughout the lyric book as well. And I got to say, those are some talented kids. Because they draw a lot better than I would if my dad said, hey, I got a song called Back Off Turkey. Draw me a turkey. Or what is that, or whatever the prompt was, right? They're showing their artistic skills, and he's giving them a medium. And it's pretty cool to involve them.
Now, I got this CD around 2008, I think. Okay. 2008 or 2009. And I just obsessed over One Better. A few years later, come 2011, I revisited the album and I fell in love with it completely. It was love at first listen, I guess, even though I had already listened to it, but I guess I wasn't really listening. Perhaps I had just heard it in the background. But when I really dug into the record for the first time, it went straight to the top as one of my all-time favorites. I would listen to it daily, particularly on my walks. And it was just this really relaxing, but at the same time compelling record to listen to. I don't know if it's the instrumentation, the lyrics, or the vibe, but it was just something very pleasant to listen to, but at the same time challenging. It was not easy listening at all. And I had very fond memories of that record for that reason. And then when I met Les for the first time and I brought over records for him to sign backstage, I had my Whales and Woe booklet. On that first encounter, I was incredibly nervous, so I could barely speak. But I did muster enough courage to tell him that Whales and Woe was one of my favorite records of all time. He said thank you, and then he signed the front of the booklet. So it's one of my most treasured possessions.
Nice, man. This record, what I recall is 2006, and I spoke about this last time. I was moving into graduate school and moving a couple thousand miles away from where I previously was. So I wasn't paying too much attention. However, and I'm using air quotes, acquired the album, listened to it, and really enjoyed it. And it did take a while for me to finally acquire the CD directly from Club Bastardo, I think, a number of years later. So this album resonated with me. There are many factors for that. The one thing that amused me was I believe in the descriptions of it, the promotional language that came with it, did say that it harkened back to the Frizzle Fry era, and that's become, or at least for a little while in the aughts and into the tens, that became kind of a running joke that every release was compared to Frizzle Fry for some reason.
The best since Frizzle Fry.
Yeah, it brings to mind the aggression of Frizzle Fry or the musicianship in it. Anyhow, this record sounds nothing like Frizzle Fry to me. No. However, I will say that it was well received on the Billboard and by Claypool fans, casual and hardcore. And I think the reasons for that are it has complete songs. They're pretty compact. There's some jamming, but none of these tunes meander, overstay their welcome. The songwriting is pretty tight. The ideas are inspired, and the production is very clean and lively. And those are, I think, the contributing factors to that.
And it's very cohesive.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. These songs fit together very well.
Production, sound, musicianship, themes, an incredible it's a very solid, incredible collection of songs.
We had mentioned that Les had done Electric Apricot, and so maybe that
inspired his drumming on this record.
For one,
a little bit, perhaps.
Yeah, for one, it certainly inspired him being the primary drummer. I think the drummer on the record. But I think it also, he'd scratched that itch. One, for making a film, of course, but two, for those long meandering songs. And so when he went back into the studio, he kept it brief, but was really laying down some tight songs.
And it's worthwhile highlighting that that Les is playing two instruments, and the bass on the album is very complex. It's very elaborate on all the tracks, but the drums are not as complex as a Primus release, for example. And that's where you notice that Les is, when it comes to drumming, he's a lot more concerned about the drums serving the songs and providing a solid groove and pocket instead of flashy, overly technical compositions from a percussive perspective.
He is playing some cool patterns, though. He's not just playing very dry four on the floor stuff.
No. He's doing some interesting things in some of the tracks, but the drums serve the songs more than show off.
Oh, sure.
But at the same time, they don't sound simple because they are complemented by Mike Dillon with the percussion.
Yeah. I think what's cool about the drumming, too, is that Les has said every time he plays drums, he's impersonating Jay Lane. And I hear that a lot on this record. And it works out really well because he's connecting with himself, between bass and drums. And you're right, bringing in guest musicians to round out these tunes. There are a handful on this record. So Les is playing a lot of different instruments on this record, Frankie. He's
bass,
credited for
guitar, drums,
bass, vocals, percussion, guitar, drums, bass, banjo. Mike.
Oh yeah, Iowan Gal, of course.
You bet, Iowan Gal.
Miscellaneous instruments on Robot Chicken.
Robot Chicken.
Yeah.
Oh man. Mike Dillon shows up on marimba and tabla and drums on a bunch of tracks.
And vibraphone.
And everybody's favorite, the vibraphone.
We also get Skerik.
Skerik on tenor sax and Barry sax on Lust Stings. Gabby Lala plays theremin and sitar. And Cajun Lena guest not only in the illustrations, Frankie, but on Back Off Turkey, the lead track. Cage plays some percussion and Lena plays around on the marimba. This, you had mentioned the term fancy band. And so Skerik, Mike D, Gabby, and of course somebody on drums because Les is busy playing bass. And it turned out to be Paolo Baldi again. That's your fancy band.
Yeah, so this band plus Paulo Baldi on drums, because Les couldn't play both instruments on stage. What you get on the record is the exact band that you got during the tour, the fancy band, which, based on the interviews that we've done with the guys before, and also what you can see and you can hear by yourself on the assorted recordings, is that this is one of Les's groups, one of Les's most technically driven, well rehearsed, well oiled groups that he ever had. So instead of partying and hanging out and just chilling, they were actually practicing and rehearsing, because what Les demanded from them on stage was superb musicianship. Because some of these songs, I'm looking at Filipino Ray, I'm looking at One Better, they were very difficult songs to perform for everybody involved.
Absolutely. And so he was really picking it up a notch on this record with the effort that he went through to create these tunes, leaving space for guys like Skerik and Mike D to lay down some parts, and of course Gabby as well. So he's everything is firing away on this one, and I would actually be curious to put up a poll and to see who, and it'd be a tough one, but who favors Purple Onion or who favors of Whales and Woe. If you had to choose one, which one are you choosing? And I would hazard a guess that the results would be pretty close to 50-50, pretty close to even.
Yes, because they are both superb records. And what an exciting time for Les as an artist. A new solo album, no backing band in the sense that he had before. This time, these were his lone creations. And at the same time, he was also promoting a book. And at the same time, he was touring with a very exciting band. 2006 must have been a wonderful year for Les.
Yeah, he was also trying to distribute Electric Apricot, so it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, but it certainly he was certainly a busy guy and having a good amount of success. I think his hit rate was really high in this era. So he's doing a lot of stuff here, and this of Whales and Woe is quite a recording.
I forgot to say that on this record we get guitar, bass, percussion, vibraphone, marimba, tabla, assorted saxophones. We also get a sitar, and we also get a theremin.
So quite a variety, for sure. Yeah. Well, we should run down the album credits. I think we've mentioned most of them, but this is produced and engineered by Les Claypool. All songs written by Claypool via Longcorn Publishing, of course, his publishing name. Interestingly, Robot Chicken is published by 1050 Music, and I'm sure that has to do with the affiliation with the television show. We'll talk more about that when we get to that track. The whole thing was recorded at Rancho Relaxo and mastered by Stephen Markison in Hollywood, California. Design and layout, as you mentioned, Frankie, by Zoltron. Illustrations by Cage and Lena Claypool. Project supervisor, Leanne LaJoy. We've mentioned her name.
Hi, Leanne.
From time to time. Hi, Leanne. And David Lefkowitz management is...
Hi, David.
...credited here. I think this is one of the last projects that Les did while Lefkowitz was still managing. So a lot of familiar names there. Let's talk some Back Off Turkey, Frankie. I was going to play a little bit of it.
Back Off Turkey. Okay.
What was that? Back Off Turkey. Hold on, let me play a little bit of it. Oh, we start on fire. Pretty fun stuff happening here at the beginning, Frankie. We get some looping bass. And,
interesting piece because it harks back to Purple Onion in the sense that the opening track is a loop.
Right. The Purple Onion track certainly had similar elements to it, so it's a bit more ambient and some repetition in the vocals as well, and a really brief message, I suppose. But it certainly sets the tone for the record, I think, because it's loopy, but a bit more aggressive and a bit more strange.
Curiously enough, just like Purple Onion, it did get performed live, but extremely infrequently. It's been teased a few times, but it was only performed as per the album twice.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and the rest of the times, it was just a tease. I can kind of see why, because if you're actually performing, I mean, if you use the recording on the PA as the intro, it makes sense. Like Claypool and Delirium used to do with There's No Underwear in Space. But if you're actually taking time to perform the song, then I guess you better make it quick, because people don't want to hear Back of Turkey being jammed out, right?
It certainly did serve to kick things off in an interesting way. Yes. Replicating it live, maybe not in their best interest, but it certainly does start that trend, and then it continues on through a bunch of records, including Green Naugahyde, so on and so forth. I know I'm going to miss a few, but there's plenty of records where this is the pattern.
It's interesting, because with Primus, the pattern is the opening track is the closing track.
Yeah, looping it, sure.
And with Les, you don't get the same, but I mean, because there's no replication during the closing, but you do get these loopy ambient pieces as the intro. Purple Onion comes to mind, Back of Turkey, and 4 Foot Shack, of course.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I wanted to play just a little part, because there's a fun little bass solo here in the Back Off Turkey that I think can be lost if you're just becoming hypnotized by the looping that surrounds it. But there's some cool stuff happening a little over halfway through. There we go. So it's a bit more ambient, but he's doing some pretty cool stuff high up on the neck there, and giving us something to chew on in this ambience that lasts a couple of minutes. So, and
in terms of gear, we do get the upright bass on Vernon, the company man. But for the rest of the tracks, correct me if I'm wrong, we just get the 4-string classic Carl. Do you think that's right?
I believe so. I think we're on the Carl, 4-string Carl the entire time, other than the one upright instance. So, yeah, the 4 is prominent on this record, just like Frizzle Fry. So
exactly.
Lyrics-wise, for Back Off Turkey, like I said, a lot of repetition. But it's certainly, I think it's the lyrics that make it sound more aggressive, I suppose, because our narrator saying, back off Turkey, I think I'm coming around again, come around again. There's that coming around repetition, which means look out, because I'm on my way. You know, Turkey is often a term that is used to describe somebody who is not very brave, or somebody who's not acting in the way that they're expected to. So there's an element of that here. The narrator's come around with vengeance on my chin, bristles on my hide, hair dyed and eyes wide. There's some really nice rhyming here. But when somebody bristles, that means they are standing in opposition to something too. So bristles on my hide. So it could be that his spikes are up, metaphorically, or the hair on the back of his neck is standing up, that sort of thing. The other lines that get me are, you can sit and smell me sweat. That's quite visceral. You can sit and watch me spin. I'm coming around again with both barrels blazing. That's a pretty common phrase. While cows are grazing and glasses crazing around the edges. I'm not sure what that means. Then he says, damned if I'll smoke them Benson and Hedges. And I had to look that one up, Frankie. It is a brand of cigarettes from the UK. I'm going to guess somebody on the Young Ones was smoking Benson and Hedges, which is why he's got that in his arsenal here. I'm not even sure if they're available in the United States. So there's some good stuff going on here to open this record. It certainly sets the stage for One Better, which we're going to talk about in detail next time. That really gets the album into high gear, but he eases us in with Back Off Turkey and has fun with his kids in the process, which, what's better than that?
I don't know about you, Josh, but I'm truly looking forward to discussing this record. It's one of my favorites. I think it's incredibly compelling. It's a force to be reckoned with in the Les Claypool catalog, considering Primus as well, considering everything he has recorded. This one stands out for me, definitely.
So you're holding this one in extremely high regard.
I adore this album, yes.
And, running down this track list too, Frankie, I think that Les and Company do as well, because so many of these tracks were live staples and have come back around. Yeah,
they became live staples. Absolutely, they carried over from Whales to Fungi, and then they found their way to Frog Brigade. I mean, some of them even were performed by Duo the Twang. So yeah, that just goes to show that Les is very fond of these compositions himself, and as he should be. He should be proud because he made a truly great album.
Well, Back Off Turkey. Smoke 'em if you've got 'em. You've been tracked. We're about to take off into the world of Whales and Woe. Frankie, before we re-examine this record, you mentioned Filipino Ray and One Better. What is the track you always go back to on this record?
That's a tough one, but if I had to pick one track, I would pick The Bicep. As Les described it, which is One Better.
It's the bicep. Yep.
Yeah, whether it's the studio track or it's one of the many live recordings, One Better is always a showstopper.
I have this vague memory that Phantom Patriot is a tune that I kept going back to.
That's a great tune as
initial
well.
Release, yeah, that
and
was
anyone who got that during the 2023 Frog Brigade tour was very, very fortunate.
So, just by virtue of looking at this track list, we're in for a number of episodes that are just going to be quite a joy. So I'm looking forward to it as well.
I'm going ahead of myself, but I can't hold this any longer. Josh, did you know that Phantom Patriot is a Pinky song?
A Pinky song?
It's a Pinky track, yes. So there's a live show where Les introduces Phantom Patriot. The kick drum begins playing, providing the backdrop. And then Les tells the audience that they had removed Phantom Patriot from the set lists for a few dates because while he was recording Pig Hunt, a method actor got carried away by his role. He wrangled Les a bit and he broke his pinky. And he required his pinky finger to perform Phantom Patriot. So after the doctor gave him the green light to use that finger again, they reincorporated Phantom Patriot on the set lists. And prior to the first performance, since his finger had been broken, Les says, "Pinky, do your stuff." And then he jumps into Phantom Patriot. So that's a Pinky song for you right there.
That's correct. I'm reminded of the broken pinky during Pig Hunt incident. So once again, busy guy. He's also starring as a preacher in horror movies in this era. He's doing a lot. He's having a great time. I think we're going to have a great time too with Of Whales and Woe.
We should, I think at some point we'll have to discuss Pig Hunt as well. I've watched it, but at the moment, I think the only thing I recall is Les yelling something like, "Shut the fuck up, Arlene," or something like that.
To this day, I haven't seen the film, so I'm going to have to search it out and give it a look. Sounds good. Well, sorry, Arlene. Sounds like funny. All right, primates. Thank you for listening. And maybe I'll put that poll up on good old Instagram. If you can only choose one, is it Whales and Woe or is it Purple Onion? It's a tough one. We'll have the results next time. Maybe. I shouldn't promise anything. Later days.
Willie Mays.